Hello, everyone. Welcome to week two. This is our first session of week two, and we'll be handling user research and product requirement gathering in this session. Now, what is user research? User research is the act of gathering information about your users' pain points or behavior and using that data gathered to inform the development of products. In layman terms, user research is basically speaking to your users, gathering the feedback from your conversation with your users or whatever tool you use to conduct your user research, and then using that information gathered to inform the development of your products. In user research, in the target audience for the product is typically the sample size that the research is being carried out on, which means that whatever target audience you are targeting for the product is those are the people you will speak with when you are conducting a user research. Now, at larger technology companies, user research is a standalone discipline that is segmented under the UX umbrella, which means it's usually a role on its own, just the way product management is a role on its own. A UX researcher is a standalone discipline. However, as startups, whoever is responsible for gathering the product requirements and for the product is responsible for user research. Hence, the product manager is typically responsible for user research. And even if you have a UX researcher, I still recommend conducting a bit of user research. It might not be as extensive if you have a UX researcher, but speaking to the users, conducting user research is very important for the products. And we'll go into why is user research as a product manager, why is it important for you to conduct user research? Now, it's not an action limited to just product management. However, because of how crucial it is to product development, it should come before product requirement gathering. In previous classes, we've touched a bit on what product requirement gathering is, and we'll go into it further down this course. But product requirement gathering is when a product manager defines the requirement for the product and then documents it on a document called a PRD, which is the product requirement document. Now, user research should come before it's one of those activities that informs the product requirement gathering because you need to speak to your users to hear what they think what their pain point is, what they're looking to your products to solve, what problem are they currently experiencing that your product solves. And then, so user research is very important, obviously. Now, here are a couple of reasons why user research is relevant to the product development phase. It provides valuable insights. Whether the product in question is an existing product or a product that is new to the market, insights and data gleaned from speaking to customers is still valuable to the product development process. For a new product, it can look like I don't have a user base yet. So what am I doing? Why am I who am I going to speak with? But you already have a target audience. Every product has a target audience, whether new or existing. You have a target audience, right? And so conducting user research on your target audience can help you quickly validate your problem. When you speak to them, you're able to know if your solution is truly the right solution needed to solve the user's pain points, or maybe you need to pivot the direction that your product is taking because the initial direction did not fit into what your user's pain points are. And for existing products, conducting user research helps you stay abreast of the needs of your customers, which in turn helps inform the product optimization process of existing features. By speaking to your users for an existing product, you're able to know that, okay, this is why users are not interacting with our products. Maybe they are not discovering your future or your product very easily, or there's a blocker, or your product flow is a bit broken. But if you don't speak to them, you're not going to get this feedback that will help you improve your product. And so this is one reason why user research is important. Another reason why user research is important is it can improve product and market strategy. Now, the data gathered from efficient user research can help improve the product strategy. It's possible to uncover new data which might have been otherwise overlooked by the product team, which can in turn impact the product and marketing strategy. A good example is imagine that a company's target audience are folks within the age of 30 to 50 years old, right? And these are millennials, I believe. Now, After speaking to this sample size, imagine you spoke to 50 people with their age spread across the 30 to 50-year-old range. Now, after speaking to about 50 of them, you discover that 25 of them are telling you that they know someone, maybe their child, their cousin, a family member, or a friend that is in their late 20s that are also using your products. That uncovers a new demographic of folks that you initially did not cater to, or you initially did not think would be interested in your product. And so it is important to speak to your users and able to glean these insights. Now, another reason why you should speak to your users for in product management is it informs the process of requirement gathering. I spoke on this earlier. During the product development stage, as a product manager, you will be tasked with drafting a document called the product requirement document. The PRD is a document that entails all the information relevant to designing and implementing functionality on the product. In order to efficiently draft a PRD, the product manager should have conducted user and market research on the specifics involved in your product. In session two, we're going to cover market research because it goes hand in hand with user research. But user research informs the process of product requirements gathering. Now, what are the types of research? User research is typically categorized into two categories. It's either quantitative or qualitative research. Quantitative research involves indirectly gathering information using research tools such as survey forms, Google Forms to collect and analyze data. Think of when you send out a Google form to a specific number of users to get feedback on your product, or when you put out a survey form through emails or whatever communication channels you have with your users, you are conducting quantitative research. It might even be there are different ways where you can there are different pools that you can conduct quantitative research in, but just know that whenever you're sending out a form or a Google form or a survey form, just anything you are putting out to gather numerical data is quantitative research. Now, qualitative research, on the other hand, is more focused on analyzing behavioral patterns. So it's more direct communication with your users. You are having a direct conversation with them. Hence, you are focusing on answering questions such as why do you want to use my product, who is using the product, and so you are interfacing with them directly. And this type of research usually involves direct interaction with the users in a bid to uncover deep user pain points and insights. An example of qualitative research is user interviews. You are interviewing the user, you are having a conversation, and you're getting direct feedback. So that's qualitative research. Now, what are user research methods? There are several methods for conducting user research, and they all have their associated strengths and weakness. So, choosing the right research method is really dependent on the product manager's discretion based on the stage of product development and their target audience. Now, it just depends on what you are looking to uncover and where you are in the product development process. That kind of informs what method of user research you want to use. Do you want to use form? Do you want to use survey? Do you want to use conduct user interviews? We'll get into that. Now, for surveys is one of the user research methods. Surveys are questionnaires sent out to customers with the aim of gathering feedback from targets or existing users. Sending out survey forms to customers are a quick way to gather feedback regarding your product. However, two major drawbacks of using survey forms to gather insights are that your customers either are not motivated enough to engage, or when they do not give you specific feedback that are beneficial to the product team. Have you ever had an experience where, or if you have ever had an experience where you open your email and a brand or a company or an organization has attached a form and they are telling you to click on the form to maybe request for feedback about their performance or about their products, and they give you a couple of questions to answer. That's a survey form, and that is that brand or that company or that organization conducting user research using survey forms. Right now, a drawback, like I mentioned, is that customers might not be motivated enough to engage, or when they do, they don't even give you specific feedback. A way to address that problem is that you can attach incentives to your survey forms, which is something I've seen a lot of brands do. You either give them a free gift card for your product, or a 1 month free trial if your product is a subscription product. You offer them discount, you offer them coupon codes, whatever. You have to understand whatever model your product is operating on, and then find a way to offer your users incentives to come on your product, to give you the survey that you need, to give you the user feedback that you need. Now, the tools for conducting survey include SurveyMonkey. These are all other applications that you can use to conduct surveys. SurveyMonkey, Google Form, Airtable, Survey Planet, Just Form, Soul Survey. You can create forms on all of this using either of these tools, and you can get user feedback you from your users. Now, interviews is another method of conducting user research. Conducting interview is a form of qualitative data gathering that involves directly communicating with the user's target audience for the product. There are three major types of user interviews: unstructured, semi structured, and structured. For unstructured interviews, it involves asking users open-ended questions. Open-ended questions means you're just asking questions. There's really no plan, there's no direction. Obviously, you're asking questions related to the products, but you want the user to sort of give you insights that if you ask direct questions, it might not come off. Think of, you're asking the user, why do you use our product? That is not an open-ended question. But when you're asking the user questions like, what is the problem that you're trying to solve that makes you use our product? And then they might give you something that is so different from what you would have gotten if you had said, why are you using our product? So that's an example of an open-ended question. Typically, the interviewer does not prepare a list of questions beforehand, but it comes to the interview with a topic in mind, the topic being your product, because that is the reason why you are speaking to the users. And then you informally discuss concepts related to the topic, which is the product. Because of the nature of this type of interview, the interviewer is able to draw unique pinpoints and insights from the user, which they otherwise would have not known to ask. It can uncover a wealth of valuable data that can inform product development slash ideation stage. Semi-structured interview strikes a balance between unstructured and structured interview style. Here, the product manager would have a list of questions. So this is different from unstructured. In semi-structured, you have a list of questions that would guide the conversation. However, depending on the user's response to the questions asked, you will ask follow-up questions to uncover the why behind every response. So you're not just having a list of questions that you're just going list after list after list after list. It's not like you come to the interview with 10 questions and you're saying, I must ask the users 10 questions, right? But yeah, a bit open-minded. It strikes, this is why it says it strikes a balance between semi-structured, it strikes a balance between unstructured and structured interview, because you have a list of questions, but you are not afraid to go off script, so to speak. You're not afraid to go off script to try to ask questions like why, after a user has given you a specific response that is in response to a question you asked. You are not afraid to go off script and ask further questions that you might have not even planned for. That's what semi-structured interviews look like. This type of interview is best for when the product team has launched their MVP, which is a minimum viable product or prototype. We'll address what an MVP is in later sessions, and is looking to hear what users think and how they are interacting with the product. Unlike unstructured interview style, however, structured interview involves having a specific set of questions which you ask every user in the same order. So this is very different from semi-structured and unstructured. The benefits of structured interview is that unlike the others, you are likely to get varying response user to user. So it ensures you are unlikely to get varying response, which means that your users are going to give you a specific standard questions to standard responses to questions that you have asked. Hence, this type of interview is best when you are trying to confirm or negate a hypothesis. A hypothesis is that it's sort of like an assumption, and then you are trying to confirm your hypothesis or negate your hypothesis. So, this is when structured interview is best. You're not trying to really necessarily uncover anything, you just want to confirm or negate your hypothesis. The tools for conducting user interviews include Google Meet, Zoom, Calendly, Hotjar. Basically, any video conferencing tool, even like what I'm using now, can enable you perform user interviews efficiently. Also, there are other forms of user research such as diary studies, task analysis, observation slash focus group, etc. Hence, understanding what type of insights your product needs will inform the user research approach to be implemented. That these examples I have expatiated on are the popular ones. However, there are others because user research, excuse me, is a discipline, like I have said. And so there are just a plethora of options that a user researcher can use in trying to glean or gather data from their user base. So it depends on, as a product manager, you don't necessarily have to implement all, or you don't necessarily have to experiment with all of these other options. You can stick with conducting interviews or using survey forms to get feedback from your users, right? But it depends on, like I said, it depends on what your product requires from you, and that is the approach that you're going to use.